Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing the great wolf Logan Grimnar and the respect he has earned. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, in yesterday's upload, we discussed the legacy of Ragnar Blackmane, how he has very much been the face of the Space Wolves chapter since the 90s, how he undoubtedly has the promise of destiny, one day assuming the role of Great Wolf himself. And well, Ragnar may have carved himself an already impressive reputation, but stepping up to Great Wolf is another level entirely. Worse still for him, he'd be taking on a mantle set by undoubtedly the greatest Great Wolf since Bjorn the Fell-Handed himself. So perhaps it's actually lucky for Blackmane that Grimnar's not going anywhere. For over 6 centuries now, Logan Grimnar has held the title of Great Wolf. He has led the chapter in the name of Russ throughout the Imperium's darkest days, and never once has he taken a backward step. He faced down the ruinous powers upon Armageddon, holding the line against the returned Primarch Angron, before refusing to allow the Inquisition to slaughter his brave allies. Now, if you've never read the novel The Emperor's Gift by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, do yourself a favour and grab a copy for Christmas, or just treat yourself. It's a Grey Knight novel that covers not only the First War for Armageddon, but also the Months of Shame conflict with the Space Wolves. And it has quite possibly the best depiction of Grimnar you will probably ever see, and really just the wolves in general. They come off as absolute badasses. This is a bit of a younger Grimnar, his hair only starting to silver, perhaps still yet to become the wiser Great Wolf we know now. But oh my word, does he just ooze lethality. This Logan Grimnar is an absolute beast, he really is. There's a moment where Grimnar finds out that he's talking to the Grey Knight Grandmaster, who ordered the Inquisition forces to betray a ceasefire, thus destroying a Space Wolf vessel, and Grimnar just kills him with a single stroke of his axe, moving so fast that all the Grey Knights around are just left completely stunned. Let me say that again. Grimnar takes out a Grey Knight Grand Master in the blink of an eye before he can even react, on an Inquisition vessel. It's absolutely awesome. This Grimnar eats Grey Knights for breakfast. And when you know how good the Grey Knights are, that gives you an idea how good Grimnar is himself. Every time he turns up in the novel, the Grey Knights can't help but admire him. If there was just one line that summed up Grimnar, it would be as he returned home to Fenris, finding an Inquisition fleet trying to force the wolves to surrender in his absence. The voice that replied was thunder given guttural, unamused life. I am Jarl Grimnar of the Wolves, lord of that world's sons and daughters, and defender of the Fang. No more lies, coward. No more tricks. Our rune priests laid down their lives to bring us back here, and paint the walls of our fortress with your sick blood. You dare warn me to back away from my own birth world? Are you blind as well as mad, weakling? This is wolf space, and we are wolves. Just gives me chills. This is a great wolf going to war. Again, if there's one read to check out over the winter holidays, whether it's a first time read or a reread, my absolute recommendation is make it the Emperor's Gift. It's an older read now, yes for sure, but you will come out the other side being more a Space Wolf and a Grey Knight fan than ever. Now, years would pass since this event. Grimnar's hair would whiten, his fangs lengthen, and his experience deepen. We've seen him recently have to contend with the return of Rabute Guilliman, the Legion Breaker, forced to ensure the independence of Fenris, to keep the wolves forever free to perform their role as the Emperor's executioner, even receiving the stunning sight of Guilliman bowing before him, the High King of Fenris. It's a pretty remarkable event, showcasing how far Ragnar has still yet to go to even be within the same breadth as Grimnar, to reach anywhere near the same level of command, just the sheer presence that Grimnar possesses. And there's actually been a moment that reflects that within the lore already. Now, this was within the novel Wolfblade, part of the Ragnar Blackmane series, and it's set much earlier in Ragnar's time with the chapter, long before he'd become a Wolf Lord, and taking place before the Imperium was in the state it is now. Now here, Ragnar had successfully stopped a Thousand Sun plot to summon Magnus the Red into the material world. However, in order to do so, he had cast the fabled Spear of Russ at the Primarch Magnus through the summoning, thus losing the spear, which for all his success had actually got Ragnar into a lot of trouble. While we know Russ hated the spear, the modern day wolves revered it, believing the prophecy that when Russ returned, for the wolf time, he would take up the spear once more. And so with no spear, well, that means no Russ. Now Ragnar faced a trial in front of the assembled Wolf Lords, and even by this point in Ragnar's early service, Grimnar had already led the chapter for several centuries, and there was a great brief line summing up the intimidation of Grimnar that Ragnar felt as he stood before him. In the centre was Logan Grimnar, the Great Wolf himself, firmly ensconced in his floating throne. He looked as old as the roots of mountains, and as hard as the armour of an Imperial battleship. Again, it's just a brief description, but somehow it seems to evoke that sense of reverence that Grimnar demands. Even here, a future legend of the chapter himself in Ragnar, full of all the confidence that he possesses, finds himself daunted before the Great Wolf. Already a legend beyond legends. It's something we all know, yet somehow still overlook. That length of service, that length of command, the toll it must take for these legendary chapter masters to just reach that point in their lives. Grimnar the Great Wolf, leading his chapter for over 600 years, and then the likes of Dante, who's led the angels for over 1,000. Their legends are eternal, and yet each and every day has been spent with pressure on their shoulders. That weight of responsibility, duty. There are none with the angels that can hold a candle to Dante's legend, and though the wolves of Fenris have Bjorn, there are none alive who compare to Grimnar. They simply stand apart, not simply by their rank, but by what they've achieved to get there, the sacrifice it requires to stay there. And for me, this instinctual respect can really be summed up by one line. When Ragnar's trial would be postponed due to an incident requiring Grimnar's attention, the Great Wolf would summon him later in the evening for a private discussion. And here Ragnar would enter, unsure on what to expect. And it says Grimnar's watching him with a half-amused, half-annoyed expression, before grinning. And he tells Ragnar he's caused a bit of a problem. To which Ragnar asks what. And this is where, in one word, we get not only the sense of how far apart Grimnar is to the young Ragnar, but also that respect in which he's held. Grimnar laughed. I would have thought it was explained with commendable clarity at the conclave today. Pup. Ragnar was not stung by the address, as he would have been had it come from almost any other man. Grimnar was centuries old. Compared to him, Ragnar was still but a child. Every chapter of the Astartes is filled with heroes, names of legendary renown in their own right, their deeds echoing out across the galaxy. Names such as Ragnar Blackmane, Mephiston, Cato Sicarius, Corsaro Khan. Yet for all their accomplishments, for their death-defying feats, there are names that stand above them as breeds apart. Those of Marneus Calgar, Dante, Azrael, Tushan, Logan Grimnar. The chapter masters who have spent their lives reaching their positions, who have spent it carrying the reputations, the legacies, the burdens of their chapters upon their shoulders. And never once do they complain, never once do they concede. They continue to lead their chapters as best they can, to keep carrying that pressure. Because in their heart they know they are the only ones who can. Logan Grimnar is the Great Wolf, and until the time comes he eventually falls, he will always be that breed apart, and he will always demand respect. But as always everyone, what do you think? Why do you feel Grimnar demands the respect he does? Is it something instinctual? Is it defined by his accomplishments? Wearing the pecking order of great chapter masters, would you place the Great Wolf's name? Does he rank up there alongside the other big names such as Marneus Calgar and Dante for example? How do you feel Ragnar will fare when and if that time comes? Can he ever live up to the legacy set by Logan Grimnar? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.